We have a problem with the recusal of judges in the state of Connecticut in cases where, they are sleeping with the defendant, things like that. There's quite so many, I can't even. But here's one that really needs to be investigated. On this screen here, let me read it to you. It states basically, in the Bank of America case, whose largest donor is the largest donor to congressional candidate Jim Himes of Greenwich, Connecticut. This is what happened in this case. Foregoing having been considered, this court has considered the issue of recusal of Judge Povodator from further proceedings. This court rules that Judge Povodator is not recused. Okay? The motion to recuse is denied. Let's talk about that, okay? Povodator was counsel to the city of Stamford for the entire Malloy administration. When Malloy became a judge, he made Povodator chief counsel to the city a judge. Okay. At that time, Larrabee was police chief. Larrabee sent a confidential informant to kill me with an axe. I fought him for 2.5 hours. That's the trial that was dismissed when they stole $50 million from me. Okay? So, Larrabee and Malloy had a police chief named Larrabee who sent a convict with 77 arrests, 22 current arrests, and 55 unprosecuted arrests, who robbed a Motel 6 at gunpoint. Basically, he's their go-to murderer, and he was hired by a dirty cop to kill a clean cop named Dealey. He was hired by a dirty cop to kill a clean cop named Lamb. You can look it up in State versus Riddle. The informant testified that he gets paid to hurt people for money and that he works for the police union. So what I'm saying is, in Connecticut, they are killing people. They are paying people to kill people. And the judges, like Povodator, are covering it up. You can look at Sandy Hook and make your own determination about Judge Blowy, but what I'm saying here is that in my case, they cashed 1,239 stolen checks in that case we're talking about. One of the checks, the first check I gave Sergeant DeSpagna at the Stamford Police Department was $250,000, and Dana Lee covered it up. Dana Lee covers up all the crime of the state of Connecticut that is funneled through Stamford Court. That includes all hedge funds that launder money. That includes a lot. So, there is a current case for 5G that I am suing Connecticut, and there's 42 defendants, I believe, and Dana Lee is denying us evidence he's squashing every subpoena. We are subpoenaing the police report for the Ahuja bribe of Dr. Ahuja and his brother. Dr. Ahuja is a serial rapist. He is a oxy pill mill pusher with a plane flying drugs in from South America. So what's going on here? Sikorsky Airport subpoena quashed. Dana Lee quashes everything through the judges that he worked for in the past. And now, Heather Lindsay, plaintiff in the 5G lawsuit in Connecticut, is being threatened at gunpoint by Michael Ahuja. Now, Michael Ahuja was indicted in a federal court for bribing cops from Connecticut to Texas and was caught with $18 million in his trunk. Look up Appellate Court versus Michael Ahuja, and then you'll see the Stamford Superior Court cases where Judge White, who was bought by Dr. Ahuja, I am told. I mean, there's 13 people saying so. We have affidavits saying so. So this is a case that needs to go to federal court. Obviously, they need to start making arrests, and we are looking for military tribunal. Military tribunal. Round them up, put them in jail, hear their cases because of the number of deaths in America. Listen to this. In 1965, there were 100 opioid deaths. Now there's 100,000 per year that we know of. Okay? How many weren't reported? Probably an equal number. I don't know. It's a guess. But when you look at the gun violence facts from 1965 till now, it's the same number. It's the same number, and the population tripled, doubled at least. We don't know what the population of the United States is. There's 200,000 per month coming through the border that get caught. The rest we don't know. That's because of Department of Homeland Security. The subcommittee chair is Chris Murphy. I am his opponent in the upcoming U.S. Senate race. I was a U.S. Senate candidate against Blumenthal, and all the petitioning candidate signatures were destroyed by the state of Connecticut, Ted Bromley. So, what I'm saying is there is an election fraud case that you need to hear. It's incredibly important that you understand that the United States election was flipped by the state of Connecticut. That Danbury, Connecticut hacked Pennsylvania. That Shelton hacked. That Wisconsin was hacked. Vermont was flipped. And other states were flipped. Michigan was flipped, for example. I think Michigan was hacked. If you look at Colchester, they hacked Oklahoma. If you look at different towns in Connecticut, we have the data. We're in court, and we're getting nowhere because of the election fraud. Now, keep in mind, the election Democratic registrar of voters in Stamford was arrested on 28 counts, got convicted, and the judges let him off. Judge Randolph let him off. Okay? Randolph is taking instructions from Blowy. Blowy was the Sandy Hook judge, grew up a mile and a half from Sandy Hook, and he knew the school was closed for 8 years prior to the FEMA mass shooting drill with the capstone agreement. I subpoenaed the capstone agreement on the Sandy Hook shooting, folks, and it has not been squashed yet. But it will be, because the judges are in on it. Judge Meyer, hearing the 5G case in Connecticut, has a signed confidentiality agreement with defendant U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal, the biggest liar in Connecticut history and in the country. Why does he own partnerships in Chinese malls and employ CCP members? It's because the rules don't apply to him. And at this point, I've been following the rules, and very soon the rules won't be applying to me either. So there you go. This is an update. I'm talking about this document. Kenneth Povodator became a judge when Malloy appointed him after Malloy became governor. Kenneth Povodator worked for Chief Larrabee. They sent a hitman to kill me in 2013. I initiated 3 lawsuits. I put everything on the record. Judge Heller heard a case. Judge Povodator heard his own case. And he wouldn't be recused. And Judge Jacobs, she heard a case too. Some of these judges, for example, Judge Jacobs, I asked for her to be recused because she is a member of Stanwich, which the NASD judge of Bernie Madoff is also. So when you look at these clubs in Greenwich, Connecticut, you will see that Bernie Madoff had parties that people got bribed. There are made men in the Gambino crime family that were partners in these hedge funds, including Biff Halloran, who founded Halloran and Sage, which is a lobbyist group in Connecticut, bribing everyone else. So this state, with its Oxy bribes and its Burisma bribes, Chris Murphy and Blumenthal both took Burisma bribes. So, folks, now if you know what Paul Manafort was a Ukraine employee from Connecticut. Why Trump hired him, I'll never know. But he was trying to get information on Ukraine. So U.S. Senator Murphy, my opponent, threatened the Ukraine president that if Biden was investigated on behalf of Trump in Ukraine, that Murphy would withdraw all support for Ukraine's military through the U.S. Senate. That is treason. That was to cover up the bribes. That's why Blumenthal and Murphy keep going to Ukraine, because they can't keep a handle on what's coming. And what's coming is certainly treason. So the fact that they've got the Stanford Superior Court surveilling people, those are the words of Joe Suda, that he's making false statements to multiple judges, for example, that I was committed to a mental facility. Never. Really? Really? So there's a trial happening in Bridgeport, that these judges who have ex parte communications, which are completely hackable, let's just say Connecticut is the head of the snake. I can explain it all, and I will be. And it's ugly, folks. I'm talking about Kremrich covering up the Stephen Barrier murder on 10/23/19. That kid was tasered to death by 6 cops. They're screaming, taser, taser, taser. I got him in the back. They tortured him to death. There was a $30 million bribe paid. $1.5 million went to Chief State's Attorney Richard Colangelo. That's why he's no longer working, because Lamont fired him. Okay? For that bribe. That's what I am told. By the way, what I am told now is quite more remarkable than what I just explained, which I will continue to explain, because there's lots of moving parts to this puzzle. And we have the opportunity now to fix all this. If you follow me, if you share, and if you comment. Ask your questions. I will answer all questions. You will be shocked if we go down this road. I'm not kidding. Look at the judge's refusal to recuse himself after hiring a hitman to kill the plaintiff in this lawsuit, me, John Flynn, versus Bank America, which is Congressman Jim Himes' largest donor. Himes took bribes from FTX, stolen funds from crypto. And Himes' response was, gee, stealing commingled funds is as old as the hills. He received stolen funds in his campaign. Actually, a lot of the money went to Connecticut. Attorney General Tong is involved. To tell you about Attorney General Tong, he fires whistleblowers and goes after them. Heather Lindsay is a whistleblower who Tong promised to help, yet he refuses to investigate the gunman who paid Oxy bribes to Judge White, and it looks like Judge Gennario is involved and many other judges. So let's look at the cases. For example, Povodator heard a trial, denied evidence to the jury. There are 31 911 calls in that trial which the jury was not allowed to hear. The first one is the 911 call of the cops sending me to my brokerage firm on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. where a guy with an axe they let in was sitting there waiting for me to surprise me, to kill me with an axe. It's not, I put it all on the record. All the evidence was, I tried to put it into the case, and Judge Povodator would not allow it because he worked for Larrabee, who sent the hitman to kill me with an axe, and the guy has an extensive history. So if you need to learn, the state needs to learn what the Janet Reno guidelines for criminal informant activity is, how that those informants are approved to commit murders like Whitey Bulger, and that, by the way, Whitey Bulger's nephew is friends with, partners with Hunter Biden. What does that tell you? It tells you that these judges are tied to the hip with hitmen killing people in Connecticut. Yes. And Whitey Bulger was approved to do it. Watch the movie and figure out if Hunter Biden is an informant, because he has informants, partners, and he's got a lot more than that. Have a great day.